We don't know exactly how Raheem Morris is first year as the Atlanta Falcons head coach, but all the preseason vibes that they couldn't be better. And when we were sold on Raheem Morris, the biggest thing we were sold on is the fact that he was able to make the most out of relationships around the league, and people are going to want to play with him. We saw Jalen Ramsey come out and speak, all former Rams players, coaches around the league. This was the number one thing we were sold on, and it hasn't even taken but a few months to see it come to fruition. I mean, guys are coming to play for Raheem Morris and this team. They are building a legitimate culture. And two things happened over the weekend regarding the two free agent signings or trade acquisitions in Judon and Justin Simmons. Judon actually chose the Falcons over the Bears. The Patriots gave him his pick, thinking the third round pick were very comparable, and he chose to come to the Falcons, and presumably because of the situation that Raheem Morris has built here. And then because of that, Justin Simmons says he saw the Judon thing, called his agent, and basically was like, hey, we need to make this happen. Also, we know about the dinner between Raheem Morris, Grady Jarrett, AJ Terrell. So there is a culture that is bringing in these guys that typically never would have considered the Atlanta Falcons over the last 5 or 6 years that immediately has come. I mean, I didn't even mention it, but Zach Robinson as well. That was the first hire, and he immediately brought him over despite him being coveted around the league. So that's the number one thing that we can all sit here and say Raheem Morris has come as advertised.
Yeah, I mean, I could make an argument over Matt Ryan's entire career. We got about the acquisitions that we got in one offseason with Raheem Morris. You know, you can think back to the Tony G acquisition. I mean, he came here for Matt Ryan. Dwight Freeney is another one. But Justin Simmons is an all-pro. Matthew Judon is a 4-time Pro Bowler. And they chose to come here. And I think Kirk Cousins certainly plays a part in that, because if we had, Ritter, Calais Campbell's free agent signing is still one of the most puzzling things of all time. I'm not even going to really, I think that Arthur Smith is just a used car salesman, because I don't know what he told Calais Campbell, but these acquisitions are for real, because they immediately see that they make the Falcons better in a big way, because this Falcons team was already itching, knocking on the door, like, we're good enough. We got some good things. We got other concerns, and they fixed the concerns in spades, Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon. And that has not happened in years. I mean, seriously, the last one that I can really think of off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, is Dwight Freeney.
Yeah, I mean, and Dwight Freeney was,
and he was a shell. Tony G was the last one where it was like, oh, he's got something left in the tank.
Judon and Justin Simmons could go and make a Pro Bowl this year, and not a single person would be surprised. I mean, these are the kind of additions that the teams that around the league, like the Eagles,
the Ravens, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Tom Brady Bucks, they're all the ones who get it.
Those are the teams. And the fact that it's happened to the Falcons, it's got
this much
in 1 year, it's like, oh, like, wow. And you're sitting here wondering what's the difference. And the easiest difference that you can spot is Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
And everybody spoke highly about this man, about wanting to play for him. I mean, all pros around the league that you didn't even really know he was like this close with.
Right.
Coaches Kyle Shanahan talk so glowingly. And what did they do? They coached for a few years. I mean, talk so glowingly of Raheem Morris. Sean McVay, so glowingly. Les Snead, the GM of the Rams. I mean, it was shocking. Mike Tomlin, like the biggest faces in football, all came together and were like, that's an amazing hire. And we were here questioning it. And now we're like, oh, I get it now. Like, I get, because as far as bringing guys in the building and having guys, which is half the job, not only having guys externally want to come play, having guys in the building already wanting to give their life on the football field, which is essentially what they're doing for the guy that is calling the plays and taking the brunt. It's impressive. Like, it has been very impressive.
Football is unlike any sport. Baseball, basketball, similar to hockey, but hockey isn't quite there, where yes, it's skill and you can boil it all down to an Excel spreadsheet for the most part. Football is that one thing where you can have a man fight for another guy, and it just is different, where baseball is not really like that at all. To a certain extent, of course, in baseball, you're fighting for the guy next to you. But football is literal war. It is literal warfare. Every single play and the trenches. And when you have a team, a group who are so passionately for one another because of a guy like Raheem Morris, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's things that you can't compute on a calculator or an Excel spreadsheet where it's like, well, this guy had this many passing yards, where it's like effort and heart and mentality is just something you cannot measure. And it feels like the Falcons are going to be one of those teams that do kind of thrive off of like, we love Raheem Morris, we love our guys, and we're going to play our hearts out no matter what. And that is so much more important than having, 15 all pros to get you to a Super Bowl, because there's a certain amount of luck involved, but there's also a certain amount of just grit and being
you see it all the time. Like there's teams that go out there and get those all pros. All of a sudden you're like, oh, they're loaded. They're going to be a super team. And then they miss the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, you see that in every sport, but you see it a lot in football. Like super teams don't work. It's kind of having that cohesiveness. And to your point where it's like playing for a coach in college football, you see it all the time. A guy that may be on the hot seat and everybody knows is on the hot seat. Those guys play. And that could be like a 30-point difference all of a sudden. In the pros, the differences are much smaller, but that can also be the difference because every game is pretty much decided by 3 points. Yep. And you winning and losing because you're out there giving it your all. So I don't know, man. I mean, we haven't talked this glowingly about the Falcons in a long time. And then having a coach that kind of glows when he walks in the building and starts talking, and you're like, damn, dude, I wish I could play football because I'd be playing for this dude. Yeah. And that's how the entire league's thinking. And it's like, this is happening in Atlanta. And it's all really because of one guy, Raheem Morris, who not a lot of people were considering as a head coach candidate outside of the Atlanta Falcons. It feels weird when they do something right.
It's that Drewski meme where he like points at himself questioning. It's like, we're Falcons fans and we're like, all these good things are happening.
I tweeted out this morning when Justin Simmons was doing his press conference, and I was like, the Falcons making me this happy in 2024.
Weird.
Before a game has even been played, and maybe that's where
week one there's going to be some rude awakening.
Maybe that's where we're getting things wrong, but it was not on my bingo card. Like I could have never imagined going into week one. I mean, just weeks ago we were like, yeah, this team might win 7, 8, 9 games if we're lucky. We're in the playoffs. Yeah. That was just a week ago, and now we're totally just sitting here like, dude, I don't want to say it, but they're kind of Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I mean, like the one thing that I think, an outside voice would say is like, let's see Kirk Cousins do it. We've never seen him do it.
And the moving pieces.
And there's a lot of moving pieces, new players, new systems, first-time coordinators. But all of that is going to be put to bed, I think, very early in the season because of just how talented the guys are around. Like, Jimmy Lake's job just got infinitely more easier with Justin Simmons on the back end. Add in a guy like Judon on the front. I mean, his job just got so infinitely easier because safeties are one of those players in the league where they're probably a little bit underpaid, but they're magnifiers. Like they make everybody else better. And like it makes a defensive coordinator's job much easier because they can cover up so many deficiencies, whether it's a cornerback or a linebacker or just the offense beating you plain and simple. When you have two guys like Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons on the back end, it makes everybody's lives easier. I mean, this defense is for real Super Bowl contenders. And if the offense is as good as I think it's going to be, I mean, the only real hiccup is going to be injury luck. And if Kirk Cousins can finally get that monkey off his back in the postseason.
The secondary depth definitely is concerning if somebody goes down. Yeah. But if those guys can stay healthy, you feel confident. And
if A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates, and Justin Simmons start every game this year, it doesn't matter who's playing opposite of them.
And the versatility of this group and really just the nice blend of like veteran, complete leaders
young, hungry guys.
And young, hungry guys. And then Raheem Morris kind of controlling it all, who's already gained our trust really quick. I mean, it's hard not to be excited. And everything that you hear out of this,
everybody should be excited.
Yeah. I mean, week one,
open up your heart and be ready to hurt.
Yeah. Go look at ticket prices week one. They are expensive. I mean, this team, this fan base, and the fan base, we finally have a reason to be a good fan base because of the people in the building and the guy leading the charge in Raheem Morris.